All right. Let's talk. We'll talk about the map rotation in a little bit. Personally, as an Ascent enjoyer, I'm not as upset as you guys. I'm just gonna let you know, I'm not as upset at you guys when it comes to Ascent. But obviously, the bigger news is that it's 2 maps per rotation, which is crazy. But anyway, let's talk about that later. Let's talk about SOOP first. Let's talk about SOOP and VCT SEA and Tier 2 and what's really going on here. Okay, so for this all became big news because we just found out, disguised as suddenly, not in challengers anymore. They dropped their team, and their team is frantically scrambling for a team. So Disguised Toast apparently made a further post. I assume this is in his Discord. So he kind of laid it out. And he basically gives context, and I think he does a pretty good job of laying it all out as best as he can, right? Without getting into all the detail. I mean, it's actually, this is as transparent as you can get. So he talks about how it's not necessarily financially viable, but he wanted to commit to 1 more year because he wanted to give 1 more shot, and he really liked the team, etc., etc. Split 3 games are streamed on SOOP. SOOP has an exclusivity clause, so you couldn't do it. And you'd have to only just do a face cam on Twitch, and not really viable, which I agree with, right? If it's like a one-off, you know, maybe you just live with it and you get by, especially with a following like Disguised, right? If it's like, say, like the SVL, right? Maybe you live with that, but it's like a whole league, like that, or a whole tournament that your team is in. It's not really, like, it's not something you can rely on, right? Like that, and that cuts it to, you know, other content that he would be doing, etc. So I get it from his point of view. I think that's a fair take. And then he goes ahead and admits that this is where we screwed up, and he was under the impression that this would be just for Split 3, and things would be different in Split 1. And SOOP was a Korean website. Even the Korean games were on Twitch, so it still might have been possible to work something out. Okay, so we've got some... This is already where we have a lot of mistakes, right? And this isn't just Disguised Toast, by the way. First of all, no Korean games are actually on Twitch anymore. Just so we're clear. Challengers Korea is not on Twitch anymore, right? No official Korean league that has a Korean-only broadcast is on Twitch anymore, just so we're very clear. Are they on multiple platforms? Yes. Yes, but we'll get back to this. We're going to get back to this. This is important, by the way. It's important to note that Challengers Korea is not exclusively on SOOP, and there's a big reason why. There's a very big reason why. But anyway, so therefore he just kind of assumed, right, because it's a Korean website, that it might be possible to work something out. And the Twitch channel were the source of the most viewership in the SEA region last year. It wasn't until the beginning of this year, as he was planning things out, he was told he couldn't do that. And that was a very big part of his financial plans, which that all makes sense, right? So ultimately the blame lies with the communication within DSG. And I think he takes, you know, good responsibility here, because I would say that you can argue that the situation sucks no matter what, but obviously this situation, actually, yes, the responsibility does lie with DSG, right? Because in fact, so there's this post from a fan that talks about how they think this all happened, and they say, once they announced that it will be merged into SEA, Riot then announced that Split 1 of Challengers will be exclusively streamed on SOOP, and at the time they only announced Split 1 will be on SOOP. This is the reason Toast was still keeping DSG until now. And then some people agree, some people don't, and there was all this back and forth. And then in December, Riot announced that all of SEA Challengers broadcasts will be exclusively in SOOP. I don't actually know if that second part is true. I think it was slightly earlier, because if you look up, what did I Google earlier? SOOP Exclusivity. There's an article on Valorant to Asia that is in November. Oh, what are these pictures? That's from the SOOP website. Okay, so this was on November 8th. And Valorant to Asia reported that SOOP will be continuing as the exclusive streaming partner. So, like, I didn't bother to go back and check this part, that initially Riot only announced Split 1. But first of all, that doesn't really excuse Disguised either. I'm not trying to throw Toast under the bus. I'm just trying to lay things out, right? I'm just trying to lay things out. But just so we're clear, this part might be true, and that's fine. But anyway, by November, we had already known that 2025, all of 2025, is going to be on SOOP. So, like, right? Again, you can dislike that decision, but it's not like suddenly like Toast was, you know, they like hid it from Toast and it was hard to find. Like, you know, I mean, this is as easy as it can get to find. Let's be very honest. So, so that part, I think this is a little bit like, I get why this Orasama 99 is upset. I get it, but this is my problem with all of us going on the internet and saying things as if they're facts without actually fact checking, because this now ruins your argument elsewhere, because it's like, well, actually it sounds like you didn't do your fact checking, because I think they did for the most part. But then going and saying like, well, this is the only reason he kept the team. It's like, well, if this was decided in November, he would have actually known about this before. He could have known about this before Split 3, right? So it's like, well, actually, like, no, the responsibility for him still lies with him and DSG. It's just that you can now still argue that decision you don't like. So there's a, you know what I mean? You gotta make sure that you separate your facts a little bit to make sure that your argument is valid elsewhere. And then obviously, we find out, you know, more teams are leaving. I think it's for a number of reasons, not only SOOP, but I'm sure that was part of it. Myth talks about leaving, and the CEO in his statement said that the challengers teams don't get any revenue. Okay, let's go back to DSG actually. So he says ultimately it lies with us. And again, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, because I think Toast actually takes the responsibility pretty well. And he just wasn't quite aware of how much it would impact them, and he didn't, you know, they just didn't do due diligence. And whether or not to keep them for just a split while we try to convince Riot seems unlikely that they would be able to budge on this. So we made a difficult decision to drop them ahead of the split. No doubts they will go far, etc., etc. First of all, this sucks. This sucks. Like, it just, the situation sucks. You know, there's multiple people to blame and all sorts of situations, but the situation sucks. And I hope that they are able to find some form of support, because obviously this team, this roster is actually pretty exciting. It's actually pretty exciting. So hopefully they will be able to land on their feet and actually focus on competing in Split 1 and throughout Challengers, because they've got some great players. Okay, now before we get to this post, which actually lays out a couple of things, people are wondering, okay, so what is SOOP? All right. So, what is SOOP? Let's talk about SOOP. Okay, so SOOP, right, is a streaming platform. So think of them kind of like, they're like Twitch. Okay, they're a streaming platform. That's really all they are, right? They're a website that you can stream on. And there's game streams, there's IRL streams, and all of that. It's basically the same. It accomplishes the same thing. Okay, that's what the platform itself is. So we got that out of the way. Now, here's what you need to understand. So I put out a tweet that said, okay, now everyone keeps saying that, wow, Riot's making money off of this exclusivity deal and nobody's seeing a dime of it. Well, that sucks. Riot is greedy AF, and they're just leaving teams to die while they make short-term money. Does anybody actually know if Riot's getting money from SOOP? Because I'm actually willing to bet that they are not getting money from SOOP. What I'm willing to bet is that SOOP is just getting less money from Riot. That's what I'm willing to bet, because here's where everyone's going wrong, in my opinion. And I could be wrong, but that would be my bet without any information. So if anybody in chat has any sort of report or anything that they've seen that indicates that SOOP was giving money to Riot for exclusivity, I'd love to see that. Now you could argue, well, if they're giving money or they're getting less money, doesn't that mean it's the same thing? And it's like, at the end of the day, maybe the net plus minus of money may be the same, but no, but I'm about to tell you something that I hope, if it doesn't blow your mind, then I don't know, everyone's going crazy, because here's the difference. This is very different from when, let's say, Twitch, or actually, you know what? Here's a great example that people oftentimes compare this to. Remember when Overwatch League and COD, right? And COD League, they all went to YouTube, right? And YouTube bought exclusivity, right? YouTube bought the media rights. It was like TV, right? It was like a channel buying the rights to cover the Olympics. Okay, are we all following along? Right? Certain channels, you bid, and sometimes if it's something like the Olympics, everyone's allowed to, but you still have to buy it. So, according to my SOOP source, SOOP is paying for 100%. Well, they're paying for league operations costs. My point is are they ever, does the contract ever say that they're giving money to Riot for exclusivity, or are they just receiving less money? But Tammy, you're on, I mean, I would assume that you would know what I'm about to talk about. So this is when a media platform buys media rights. Someone else is running something. So in the case of OWL and CWL, it was back then, it was Blizzard, right? It was Activision / Blizzard. They were running the event, and YouTube shows up and they give money to Activision Blizzard, and they say, yo, we'd like to buy your product to put on our platform and keep away from Twitch. Okay? So we're all following along. Now here's the difference with VCT SEA. SOOP is not just a media partner. As far as I know, SOOP is actually the TO, the tournament organizer, because the way Tier 2 works in Valorant is that Riot hires people to run the tournament for them. It's why we have this mess of a challenger system with every region and sub-region having different formats and different calendars. This is why this happens, because everybody has a different partner. And here's where things should get clarified. You're talking about, well, SOOP's a Korean company. Why isn't this happening in Korea? Because in Korea, until last year at the very least, I don't know 100%, but I think this year it's the same. It was actually WDG running Korea. Now, WDG is purely an event and tournament organizer company. Okay? They do not have a media platform. So they just bid for the chance to run this tournament. And so they run the tournament, right? They run the broadcast, but you know, they have no loyalty to any one platform or another. So they're going to send it out to SOOP. They're going to send it out to Naver. They're going to send it out to YouTube. They're not going to send it out to Twitch because there's no English broadcast and there's no point in sending it out to Twitch. So this is where there's a big difference, okay? So this is where, because it's different from someone paying for the product that someone else is making versus, okay, now I have bid to be your employee right, and then to make that product for you. Now during this, presumably as SOOP is bidding, right? SOOP is like, yo, Riot, we want we'd like to run VCT Challengers SEA, or back in the day Thailand, right? And they say, okay, but hey, if you can't give us more money, or maybe they even say, you know what, we'll take a cut. And so Riot's like, all right, Riot's probably getting bids from like different people, right? I don't know all the people that run things in Southeast Asia, so I'm not going to make any comparisons, but other companies have bid, I'm sure. And SOOP makes a bid, and SOOP says, all right, here's a deal we can give you. Instead of giving us, you know, $2 signs, we'll actually just take $1 sign, right? So they say, okay, just give us one. Just give us one. But instead, we take this. Oh, that's not what I wanted. We take this, but also we get exclusivity. That's probably what's going on here. Okay? Now, again, you can argue, well, the net plus minus profit loss of money, isn't that the same thing as SOOP buying it? You could argue that, but it implies something very different. The problem now becomes very different, because this would imply that Riot isn't trying to make more money off of this, that it would imply that they are trying to save as much money as possible, which is not a shock from everything we've seen, right? From everything we've seen when it comes to tier 2. And here's the other thing is, like, when you look at it from a purely business perspective, the philosophy of we want to save money on tier 2 is, you can't blame it. Obviously, there are better ways to go about it, in my opinion. I agree, but I'm just gonna put that out there as a disclaimer. So now they're just getting either less money, either they've said like we'll take less money, or maybe they just made a bid where they're like, hey, we can run this for cheaper, but we need to have exclusivity. Because then what SOOP is thinking is that I am taking a loss in money, right? They're taking a loss in the money that they could potentially make from this. Because usually when this happens, by the way, how TOs make money or basically stay afloat is that they get the money from the client and then they just save as much as possible. So like everyone's just trying to save. Chat, if you've ever wondered why esports tournaments are such a mess, it's because literally nobody's actually making money. Everybody's just trying to save money. That's how you make money in the tournament organizing realm. Are there exceptions? Yes, but generally this is what happens. And you can take my word for it, because I've been in organizations that have been doing this in Korea and Europe and Americas, right? So like generally this is what happens. So you take a contract and you say, all right, we'll get, let's say you say, hey, we'll take $3 signs to run this tournament for you, Riot. Riot gives you $3 signs. And then you say, all right, we're going to use like at most $1.50 signs on this product. And then we make money by saving $1.50 for ourselves into our pocket. Now here's, yeah, that's a very good question. Do they not make money from sponsors? Now that gets complicated because some tournaments, the actual client brings in the sponsors and there's actually no revenue sharing with the TO. Sometimes it's half and half. Sometimes the TO is allowed to bring in their sponsors, things like that, right? So the sponsor thing is a different question, but also I'm just going to go ahead and say this on record. Most people that are working on business teams and sales teams that are getting sponsors for esports organizations, I don't, you know what? I don't even feel bad saying this. They suck at their job. I'm just going to say it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not as easy as it seems, because we live in a world where like esports is blowing up, but then you compare that to the rest of the world and it's like still really small. And then you have like regional offices and all that. So it gets really complicated. I'm not saying it's easy, but like most people are not actually very good at getting good sponsorships. But that's a whole different thing. So, so are we all following along until this point? Do you understand how this works? Do you understand how TOs get contracts and either make money or run things? So quick question. Riot paid less to SOOP in exchange for SOOP getting exclusivity. I'm assuming that is what happened. That is my take. Because for a fact, I know for a fact that anyone who's running a tier 2 tournament is probably getting some sort of money, but probably not much from Riot, right? To begin with. So then the deal SOOP can make would be, hey, we'll do it for cheaper. But won't Riot save more if they sell streaming rights separately? Because most of the good league streaming rights are very expensive. Okay, so so there's a couple things here. How many leagues do we know that have been successful for more than 5 years at a top tier while selling exclusive streaming rights within esports, not sports? How many leagues can you name that do that? Because I'm not going to count Owl. That didn't go very well. Although I will say, you know what, Owl was the situation where when they launched, they had all these sponsors, and that's when I looked at it and I said, wow, the rest of esports really sucks at getting sponsors, because if they're able to sell this unknown product with inflated numbers to these giant brands, then everybody else is missing something. Obviously now it didn't go very well in the long term for Owl, but that was an eye-opening experience. So you could say that, well, shouldn't they just sell it? But then the other thing, here's the other thing. So you think Twitch is gonna buy this? You think Twitch, who's trying to cut all the things that they have, who's trying to also save money, you think Twitch is gonna buy tier 2 Pacific Challengers Valorant? I don't think so. I'll be very honest, if I was Twitch, I wouldn't buy it, right? So like, no one's actually gonna, no platform is dying to buy any Challengers League, quite frankly. Right, because the other contingency there is like, it's a good league. And when we say good in a business sense, it means a very popular league. But then, you know, not only do you have to be popular, your platform has to have something they get out of that region. Now, I would argue that Twitch and YouTube probably do have something to get out of the SEA region, not Korea. But there's you know, you have to look at it at a pretty objective viewpoint, right? So with all that considered, let's just clear up that first point. Riot probably, everyone's like, Riot's not giving any money they got from SOOP to the teams. They probably don't actually have any money they got from SOOP. They just have a couple more dimes that they saved, okay? That's one thing I just want to clear up. Now, I'm not saying that's good. It's actually a problem, but it points to a different problem than Riot's like anti-Robin Hooding the rest of the tier 2 teams. Okay? I'm not trying to say Riot's poor. Riot's probably not poor, just so we're very clear. But I'm just saying, it's not like they got extra money, okay? What about Kick? I'm sure they would be willing to pay for exclusive rights. Okay, let's say Kick is willing, and let's say Riot accepts it. Does that suddenly make it better than SOOP having exclusivity? I mean, that's under the assumption that then all that money just gets funneled right into the teams as well, right? So yeah, like I don't know what you guys are arguing. Like you guys are trying to argue. Like, first of all, is everyone in my chat suddenly gonna go watch Kick if Kick was the exclusive partner for Challengers Valorant? Because like I wouldn't. I mean, hell, I'd watch. I'm watching SOOP over Kick because at the very least within Korea, SOOP's quality is pretty good. Just the website really sucks. It would also be a PR disaster, etc. But that aside. SEA uses Facebook, and here's the other thing, right? Is that obviously SEA, like every region has their own like preferred platform. So again, I don't think if I owned a platform, I'm not going in and being like, I want to buy the media rights to this thing that is for all of SEA, because my platform actually only benefits from like 3 out of the, I don't know, what are there, 7 or 8 things like that. Okay, so then you say, I can understand if they buy the KR one, but Southeast Asia? Okay, so now we're moving on. Now you guys are thinking. Okay, so here's what's happening. First of all, there's some very misinformed people on Reddit chat. I don't think I've ever been more disappointed by Reddit in the past year than this afternoon. Because there was someone in the comments saying, nobody watches SOOP in Korea. And I'm like, boy, the problem is so many people watch SOOP in Korea. That's the actual problem. It's not that nobody watches SOOP in Korea. That's insane. In fact, within the esports community, a lot of people. So right now, there's 2 competitors, right? So ever since Twitch died, so Twitch is dead in Korea. If anyone's been wondering, I'm streaming from Korea, but that's because I'm an American and I can make money on my American bank account. But I can't make money if you don't subscribe to this channel. So please consider subscribing to this channel. But aside from that, Twitch is now dead in Korea, right? So in Korea, Twitch is dead. So then what were the other options? So option number 1 is YouTube. YouTube has always existed. Okay. Option number 2 was SOOP, back then known as Africa TV. And then option number 3 is a new challenger arrives. And I can't believe I'm writing this out. They were called Chizk. We're gonna say neighbor. We're gonna say neighbor. Yo, Jolly, can you delete that chat so I can put this on YouTube and not get flagged? Otherwise, I'm gonna have to purposely find your chat and block it out. Okay. So, in case anyone's wondering, it's tijijik in Korean, and tijijik is the sound of static, like on your TV, which already that nobody in Gen Z is gonna get that anyway, because no one's ever, churning their antenna on their TV anymore. But it's the sound that it makes. Bilibili's in China. Bilibili is not a Korean platform. Okay, so you had these three options, right? YouTube just, everyone uses YouTube in Korea as well, but YouTube Live just isn't great, right? Especially for gaming. It's just, it's just not great, right? Even in the West, we all agree on live, it's not great, right? So YouTube Live was not really a competitor. So then it looked like SOOP was just going to be the de facto king, but Naver comes in, and Naver's Korea's, well, Google in terms of the search platform. Pretty big company. They're the main search platform, search engine. A lot of people use like Naver Mail. A lot of people use Naver to search things, and people are like, "Oh, Naver is gonna get into streaming. Ooh, this is promising." So Naver shows up. And they basically just straight up copy Twitch, and it looked promising in the beginning, but like the beta was kind of messy, and it's only 720p, and it just wasn't great, and they just didn't really seem to understand if they wanted to commit more like on the esports side of things or the gaming side of things. And during this whole time, all the people who used to stream on Twitch in Korea are like, okay, do we go to SOOP or Naver? Like, no one's even talking about YouTube. They're like, do we go to SOOP or Naver? I don't know where to go. And they basically get split. Some people go to Naver, some people go to SOOP, some people decide this is the time to go to multi-streaming. So they launch, and there was some fanfare in the beginning, but not too much fanfare. Okay. And I would argue that over time within esports titles, SOOP actually invested hard into the esports side of things with things like, the AVL, partnering with LCK teams and players, right? Same with VCT teams. And so they're getting all these players and these events onto their platform. Whereas Naver's like, yo, here we are. And they're just kind of there. They have some partnerships with teams and such, but they seem to rely more on, the big individual streamers moving over to their platform, which some of the biggest ones are on Naver. So they exist there for sure. Give me 1 second. Okay. Oh, hey. All right. Oh. Okay. Before we get to this, Jakeson just responded to my tweet, but let's finish this conversation because let's just clarify things. Okay, so with that said, I would within the esports community in Korea, like among Koreans, it's like, oh, I guess SOOP is now just going to be the de facto thing for esports. That's just kind of been the conversation that happens. Okay, so while just Naver exists, I cannot believe they thought this was okay, by the way. But while Naver exists, there's variety games and whatnot on it, but SOOP is the kind of for esports people. That's where it is, especially for Valorant. Like a lot of Valorant content creators, I think, felt kind of disappointed by Naver and the support that they got. Is what I got from just conversations I picked up in passing, and so they've been moving over to SOOP, right? So like Team I Am partnered with SOOP, and they started collabing with a lot of like Valorant streamers that were on SOOP already, and things like that, right? If I'm not mistaken, Gen G is partnered with SOOP, yeah? And things like that. Okay, so in Korea, SOOP's doing all right. I mean, they always were doing all right in Korea, and SOOP's doing okay in Korea. So why would they not bother with partnering and buying exclusivity in Korea? Well, probably because their platform's doing okay in Korea, right? So if you are at the very least tied for #1, right? Why would you ever take a pay cut to make people watch things more on your platform? There's just no point. I mean, people are already watching anyway, right? So there's no point in taking a cut and being like, hey, we'll make this for cheaper, because it's like, nah, people are gonna watch. But then you think about SEA, all right, now SOOP, maybe, you know, they want to expand to SEA. Obviously, I don't work for SOOP, so I can't tell you like, what do they want to do in SEA? I mean, they probably just want to make money, chat. Okay, Korea is a pretty small country. They probably see an opportunity. They probably want to make some money, which I think is very, very reasonable for a business. So, so they want to expand to SEA, but they don't have a strong audience in SEA as a whole, right? So now they're like, okay, how do we get people to watch on our platform? Okay, here it might be worth it to take a cut, right? So they lose money. But then they say, okay, if this means even we get like 100 more people onto our platform, that's a win. In all honesty, that's probably, like, the numbers are probably very low. The expectations are probably very low. Okay? Because this is what happened with AVL last year, obviously, or 2 years ago, I guess now. AVL 2023, you guys will remember because Sentinels won, right? And so therefore everybody in the world cared. So Sentinels wins AVL 23, but that's neither here nor there. AVL was exclusive on Africa TV, which is currently SOOP, right? So, geez, I'm terrible at writing with a mouse. Now this was exclusive, and back then everyone cried too. Everyone was like, oh man, I have to watch this on Africa TV. Guess what? AVL 2023 smashed any type of esports viewership number, especially for Valorant, that Africa TV ever had. Like, ever. They weren't getting those numbers in Korea for the Korean broadcast. They weren't getting those numbers anywhere for Africa TV for Valorant. And it just absolutely smashes the numbers, right? Gets a ton of people to sign up because you can't watch at HD without signing up and downloading their plugin, etc., etc. So can you give the number? Let's see if we can find it. Actually, I hadn't had time to look this up, but you know what? That's a good idea. Let's see if we can find the numbers. Let's see. AVL 2023 Africa TV viewership. Let's take esports charts. Oh, this is all of it though, right? It doesn't show all of it. But, well, actually, but all of it would have been on Africa TV because that's the only place you can stream it. So it doesn't matter if it was a watch party on Africa TV or not. It was just smashing numbers that they had. Right? I mean, hey, that's pretty damn good for only being streamed on Africa. That's a comment here on the side. That's a response. So while yes, the numbers could have been even bigger if it was on multiple platforms, but Africa TV doesn't care about that, because here's what I want to get at, chat. Is one thing I want to get at is the fact that if SOOP doesn't do this, if SOOP doesn't go for exclusivity deals, then there is no SVL. SVL is donezo, right? Because nobody's making money off of running a tournament, chat. It all goes back to that. Nobody's actually making money off of running a tournament. You talk about sponsorships, etc. Like, even the big, I mean, okay, I'm not going to talk about like Worlds and stuff because that's a totally different thing, or Champions. But you talk about just like the bigger leagues, you're probably staying afloat with sponsors if you have the biggest league. When you're not getting rich off of the league. Trust me when I say no one's getting rich off of running a tournament. You might make some profit at best, right? So then you say, well, then how does Riot do it? Okay, obviously I don't work for Riot. Definitely not now, JK. I don't work for Riot, but in my opinion, from the outside, and you can kind of piece this together from everything that Riot said, is that to Riot, esports isn't meant to make money. Esports is marketing. In fact, therefore, it's a money sink, right? In Riot's eyes, esports isn't there to make money. Worlds is not there to bring in the big bucks. Worlds is there to get you all hooked to want to play the game. It's to get people like all of us see Faker make a move like that and be like, oh, I do miss playing League, and log back in and then see the skins and then buy the skins. All right, like that's what Worlds is there for. Yes, it also celebrates the best players. Yes, it caters to a more hardcore fan, etc., etc., etc. But like they're not looking at like ticket sales on the seats and being like, oh baby, full house, we're making big bucks tonight. Like that's not happening. That's not happening at these tournaments, right? And at best, again, like Worlds, Champions, those might make some money off of the sponsorships, but that's not really where the actual money is coming from. So if Riot, if even Riot is not looking at esports to be the moneymaker, how in the world is someone like SOOP or I don't know who else, who's running stuff now in America? I don't even know. You know, how in the world are they supposed to make money off of running a tournament? They can't. And who knows? Are they even allowed to look for sponsors? Maybe. But even if they are they even good at getting sponsors? Probably not, right? So no one's making money off of running the tournament. So in fact, getting exclusivity on things like SVL is good, chat. We can complain all we want about SOOP. We should complain so SOOP actually fixes their website, because it's bad. But outside of that, it's a smart idea, because now they can make money off of other things and continue to give us more esports things. Now, obviously, SVL is an off-season tournament, so it's a much easier pill to swallow. When it comes to the league itself, I agree, because this has bigger impact, right? Because now, when it comes to Challengers SEA, it's the entire, especially now that it's a conglomerate, right? It's the entire tier 2 of SEA. So there's much bigger impact, and it's all year long, right? So it's all year long, and I get it. It's a much bigger impact, and so. No, I'm not a SOOP salesman. All I'm trying to say is we need to understand what the problem is before we complain about it. If all we're doing is complaining about the fact that Riot's taking money from SOOP, which they aren't, Jason just confirmed that they aren't, which was my assumption. If we're just sitting here like Riot's just greedy and they're taking money for themselves, it's like that doesn't fix anything, because we're not actually pointing out the problem. The problem is nobody's making money. And so all I'm saying, listen, SOOP is also not in the business of like, hey, let's try to keep tier 2 alive. Like, that's not SOOP's business, unfortunately. It would be great if they had the leisure to do so, but they don't, because they're not making money off of running it. So it's like their business is to make money, and they make money by getting at least one more person onto their platform to watch one more ad, right? So that's their business decision. So then the next step of the problem would be, okay, well then if that's the only way they can make money, like why is no one else challenging to make the tournament? Because no one else owns a platform to make money off of while losing money or not, breaking even on running the tournament, right? So those are the issues. Let's take a look at the response from Jake, because I think it looked like it was a pretty long one, actually. Where is... Hey, by the way, I was on Spike Talk. You guys should go check it out. All right. Oh, it's actually just straight up. It's just very short. We are not receiving any money from SOOP. SOOP and Riot are co-investing in Challengers SCA. Okay, so in fact, I mean, it really just sounds like everybody's losing money on this deal. Which is terrible. Whether Riot receives money or not, the result will still be the same anyway. I just hope this won't affect interest that much. Okay, so first of all, the result will be the same anyway, kind of. I'm not even going to bother with this one. However, I just hope this won't affect interest that much, because no matter how you twist it, exclusivity is like a barrier for people that have an interest to watch the game. This is the real problem, right? Now this is the problem we can talk about. So now we can have a better discussion, chat, okay? So now the discussion becomes, if exclusivity is the only way for not everybody to die, then that sounds like it's a problem because exclusivity is a barrier of entry, which is entirely true. Now, you know, if it's an off-season tournament, you know, we live with it, right? It's off-season. It's not the main course, right? This is a side dish, but it's a pretty spicy one. I would like it, but worst case, I'll catch up on... And I assume even for challengers this year, you're still allowed to put like highlights and stuff on YouTube. You just can't live stream it because that's what the rules are for SVL. So, you know, for off-season, it's like, okay. But for the league, now this is the whole year, right? And let's also talk about, you know, the potential problem that if you don't have eyes on tier 2, no one's going to get excited about potential talent, right? So it continues to get worse. So it's not only that there's less views for sponsorship. So, I mean, okay, so exclusivity, right? It's going to affect viewership. So viewership goes down. I mean, this is just true no matter how popular, right? Even if it was Twitch, viewership's going to go down because maybe some people live and die by YouTube and you're not getting those people. So viewership goes down, which means that sponsorship goes down for everybody, right? The chances of sponsorship and the money you might get goes down. I would say coverage goes down. And then storylines go down because now not enough people care to watch or follow, and it's too much of an issue to care about people. And so everything goes down. So the only payoff has to be that, I mean, hopefully somebody's making big money that can feed back into the system. But it sounds like, I mean, maybe like if this was sustainable for 3 years, maybe Soup's making the big bucks and then they run more tournaments. Maybe, but like that's a, I mean, who knows, right? Who even knows? But again, so then how do you fix it? Well, assuming that Riot is saying, hey, this is like the best we can do, I mean, you need to, it's just a general problem with tier 2, right? Don't you think? Try not to copy paste too much, but just understand that I have things I want to talk about before I get to chat. But anyway, YouTube says, don't you think that just giving a total of 12 spots for so many talented SEA regions is like less teams, especially since some of them are academy ones from these 12? Okay, so the academy teams part is an interesting point because when it was first announced for 12 teams, that wasn't part of the equation for a lot of us, right? So that does eat into it. I would agree. But I would also argue that the academy teams isn't necessarily I think we can leave that out of the equation because if anything, maybe they provide more sustainability for individual players. So I think that part is a bit of a separate issue. The 12 teams thing, I talked about it when it was first announced, and this is before we knew about the SOOP exclusivity and all of that. It is a lot less, but I wagered that in the grand scheme of things, you look at how fragmented things are and the attention to different regions, etc. I wagered that over time, the condensing could be better. Now, could it be 16 teams? Sure. But do you have 16 orgs willing to invest, you know, that are sustainable and trustworthy? Maybe not. Now, obviously, now teams are leaving even more. So, like, it's even worse. But I think at that time, I think when it was first announced, I think there was an argument for both sides. I really think so. I'm not even trying to defend Riot. I just think that concentration and then building up over time was actually a worthy risk. It's risky, but I actually believed, and in theory I still do, that condensing and then rebuilding up would have been good. But the problem is that now with exclusivity, you actually can't build up, right? So like, so that's where the exclusivity kind of matters, because the assumption would have been if you condense into 12 teams, right? So if you condense into 12 teams and then you are able to put them on Twitch and YouTube and everywhere and SOOP and whatnot, SOOP, and then you continue to invest money into the scene, right? So it's more condensed into the 12 teams, and then it grows, and over time you can get better sponsorships. Obviously, this is all like it's a pipe dream, but that's the goal if you were to condense it, right? Then I actually think it was a worthy risk, because I think that's a lot harder to do when it's all spread out. But you know, it's VCL, not VCT. Fix your title. You would actually be wrong, because Riot has officially claimed that they have never used the acronym VCL, and it's actually VCT. It's actually Valorant Challenger. So we're both wrong. But I'm just going to keep it at VCT, because we're going to talk about the map rotation as well. But VCL is actually just all of us using it on Twitter, and it's actually never been recognized as an official acronym. Do Korean people even care about tier 2 SEA teams? No, but I don't know what that has to do with anything. Again, you guys have to realize that SOOP's not doing this for their business in Korea. SOOP wanted exclusivity to try to build into SEA. Listen, I'm not trying to defend SOOP. What SOOP is doing is hurting it, but also it's not on SOOP to like try to save everything either. That's all I'm saying, right? So SOOP's just playing their own business game. Riot's trying to do whatever they can do, and it's just, the problem is everyone's just trying to survive on their own, and the result is that now the teams are taking the hit. I think that's the best summary. Valorant Challengers Leagues. But they're not called Valorant Challengers Leagues. They're just called Valorant Challengers in different regions. Listen, you can argue with me all you want about this title, but it's not VCL, and we're talking about map rotations later as well. So, and I'm not going to put like a 60-word essay on my title, because then the algorithm hates me. Well, is all blame on Riot? Listen, I'm not trying to, especially chat. Can we just make something clear? Just given the current esports political climate with myself, let's just be very clear. I'm not trying to weaponize you guys against Riot. Okay, that's actually not what I'm trying to do. Hi, I'm PCFX from Truth Esports, the sole, one of the sole Thailand Valcom content creators, and I gotta say this, SCA Valorant is effed. Well, that part I would agree, like, looks really bad. It does look really bad. Jakeson said Riot is not getting money for a SOOP stream, then why is it getting exclusivity? Okay, well, you can't rewind on Twitch, but if you go back on YouTube, I talk about it in the beginning. But also, I will cut this and put it up on YouTube separately. But again, just as a reminder, Riot generally pays TOs, right? Riot generally pays TOs for tier 2. SOOP is a tier 2 tournament organizer. They are more than a media platform. So my guess is that SOOP is, I say taking less money, but let's just say SOOP is taking a hit, right? So SOOP says, we'll take a hit, but give us exclusivity. And given Jake's wording of this is a co-investment, I would assume basically what it is that Riot is giving them, you know, X amount of money in a contract, but then SOOP is saying, hey, we will also just pay for these operational costs, right? And so that's probably where SOOP is taking the hit and saying, but therefore we get exclusivity, which in Riot's eyes, therefore probably the calculation was that, hey, SOOP, you know, we've had them run other tournaments as well. I don't know what else, you know, what else is in their consideration, but maybe they just thought, okay, like at this value cost ratio, that's the best ROI for the tournament being actually run. And so we're going to give it to them. But obviously things look a lot worse now. Okay, the chat moderation as a whole, that's a whole separate thing. That's a whole separate thing. That's a very separate, that's a very separate matter. That's a very separate matter. What I don't understand is they merge all of SC for viewership purpose just for, well, I don't know. Can anyone because as far as I understood, SOOP actually does decent in Thailand. Is anyone in my chat from Thailand right now. Oh, actually, PCFC, you claimed that you were from Thailand, but like, I've always been told that it was doing okay. Because SOOP was exclusive to Challengers Thailand beforehand as well, right? Well, some people in Twitch are saying that that wasn't even the case, but I mean, I was gonna say we could look up the numbers, but I don't even know what numbers I would consider okay for that. So, because they bought all the Thailand Valve streamers to push the product. Well, okay, you cannot like how they do it, but if the numbers are doing well, they're doing well. I mean, listen, YouTube gaming is doing all right because they bought out a bunch of streamers, but like, then they're doing all right. You know what I mean? The community's not okay. So they might not like it, but again, that's something like, okay, let me just make this very clear, chat. Esports is not going to stay alive if we just get what we want. If we want it on every platform for free, mind you, like if you want it just on your own platform, you better get ready to shell out for pay-per-view, because like that's not happening. That's just not sustainable. It's just not. It's just straight up not sustainable. Now, I agree that SOOP's website is bad. It's bad in Korea, and I'm told that it's much worse when you connect from outside. So it's like, it is bad. I think they should be held accountable for that. I think they should fix it. Absolutely. I agree. I agree with that. But going to a non-exclusive with also nobody making money and none of us paying pay-per-view does not actually fix anything. It just fixes it for this year for me as a viewer. I'm from Thailand. I have a lot of problems trying to watch VCT on SOOP, both on my phone and my laptop. Yeah, so I've heard this a lot too. So in Korea, at the very least, there's not really any issue connecting to the website. But obviously, if you have issues connecting to the platform, that's a big problem. And like, they should fix that for sure. They should fix that. But again, that, in my opinion, that's a separate problem that can be amended. It's like a lesser evil, in my opinion, as long as it does get fixed. If they never fix the platform, then it's a really bad problem. But, right, I mean, well, it's either that or it's, I mean, in all honesty, listen, if we were all willing to pay pay-per-view, which I think back and I'm like, maybe we should have just accepted pay-per-view way back when, because that would solve a lot of issues that we have in esports. But as people in chat have noted, it's too long gone now. And MLG tried it, and they almost got burned at the stake. So, you know. What is pay-per-view? It's when you pay for the program. Like, let's say you pay for, like, either to watch it or you're paying for 1080p or whatever, like a subscription. I think it would help a ton if they at least uploaded the VODs on YouTube. Yeah, so obviously that part I would agree is like... Wait, hold on. I'm going to tell you the numbers from the most recent events. Let me find it. For SOOP? Yeah, sure. Yeah. Link it to us. Africa TV is still better than SOOP at the same time. Africa TV is SOOP. Guys, Africa TV is literally SOOP. Africa TV is now just the company, and SOOP is the platform. They also did a poor job of marketing the rebranding, but it is literally the same company. Well, SOOP is just what it is now. It's the same in Korea. They just pushed it out globally first because there wasn't as much of a foothold globally. The entire platform is now just SOOP everywhere. I believe they actually changed their business registration too. I don't think they're Africa TV anymore, even in the stock market and stuff. If I remember correctly, they had less problems with the Africa website. So, I mean, that could be a case with them rebranding, and I don't know, maybe they changed something on their website, etc. Can I post links here without getting muted or banned? So I think you can post links on the YouTube chat, but I don't think it comes through, and I don't know why, because I don't think I have links. You won't get banned, but it might not show up. But I haven't seen any settings where I have it blocked. But try posting it and let me see if it comes up. Oh, YouTube just doesn't like links. Oops. You could tweet it to me if you have Twitter. There's SOOP KR and SOOP Global. Well, of course they have global. Otherwise, they couldn't do business globally. I mean, that's the other thing. That's the other thing. The other thing is that, yes, there is a SOOP office globally, right, in SEA, and then there is a SOOP office in Korea, right? So the Korean office is the one that's going to be running VCT Pacific this year, and the one that ran VCT Pacific 2 years ago. Not the same people. I mean, same, like, management way up top, but, you know, not the same people. Links don't come as URLs, just text on YouTube. Got it. Oh, YouTube just doesn't allow external links, huh? You tweeted at me? You mean that there's different platforms? Right. Wait, where is it? Oh, here we go. This is split to last year? Oh, sorry for the flashbang. I didn't know that was going to happen, chat. That's not on me. Okay, so the reason so here's the thing. I don't really know, like, if this is good or bad. So I actually, this is why I stopped myself from asking to see this, because viewership is all relative. Like, for instance, if Korea had a 20K viewership, it'd be freaking banging. Right? Like, it'd be like, it would be like, oh, just keep it exclusive all the time. This is great. Like, that's what we would say. So SOOP Live, COKR, SOOPLive.com. Yeah, so it sounds like there might be different backend as well on the two platforms, which that's a separate issue. But just so we know, the site sucks in Korea too. The connectivity isn't as bad, but the site's bad. The design's bad. But also, Korean websites are just generally not great. Pull Indonesia's numbers. Wait, is Indonesia's numbers? I'm just gonna say this, chat. I actually didn't know much about Indonesia, just in general, until Valorant, and like, my mind's getting blown like every year. By the way, I mean, no, Indonesian Valorant is great. Indonesian Valorant is great. YouTube exclusive, good. I mean, tell that to Overwatch League. In fact, tell that to Call of Duty League. I mean, it does sound like there's probably some repetitive technical issue first and foremost with the SOOP platform, which that should probably get fixed for sure. Riot always bends the rules. IMO allow the SPG deal to distinguish from Red Forest SPG, and then if an org was 5-1, Riot will again bend the rules. Well, so the problem, I would agree that this whole, like, if an orgless 5-man won, then yeah, the rules would have to be rewritten again, probably. But SPG is, I mean, their argument, which for now it holds true. You can argue that it's precedent to bend rules, but the argument is that you would have to take over the entire org, which it just so happened that does it sound a little scummy? Sure. It just so happened that SPG only had a Valorant team. So, like, yes, but chat. Okay, everyone just calm down for a second. There are plenty of things to get upset about. There are plenty of things to get upset about with the way that Valorant esports is run. Trust me. There's plenty of things to get upset about. But but what I'm about to tell you is don't get riled up about one thing and then get riled up about the next thing and then the next and the next and make it all sound like it's one big problem, because that is not how you get what you want. That's not how you get what you want. You have to be very specific and you have to pick your battles. It sucks, but you do. What are we talking about right now? We're now talking about all sorts of things, because honestly, my biggest problem I had with the discussion that everyone had was that people were spreading this idea that SOOP was paying Riot, and that is not the case. And I think everyone now, obviously, Jake has he has cleared that up. So I just wanted to get that out there, right? What I'm saying is, it's just like, get your facts right before you complain or before you fight for something. Because if you have even one fact wrong, your argument gets weaker. I'm not saying don't fight for it. I'm not saying don't, talk about it. I'm just saying get your facts right. It helps a lot. It helps a lot in winning your battle. It helps a lot in winning your battle. Now, SOOP is not paying Riot. SOOP is not paying Riot, chat. SOOP is not paying Riot. SOOP is a platform and a TO. Okay? Now, you can argue, well, then why they make the deal, but I mean, I don't know why people are so surprised that they would have taken this deal, because, like, everything we've seen and heard is that Riot's trying to save money on Tier 2 and trying to still find a way to make it work. I don't think, just so we're clear, I don't think Riot is trying to ditch Tier 2. I just think that they're trying to save money while it's still hoping to find a way to make it work. Is that a bit of a pipe dream? Is it going to hurt a lot of people on the way? Yes. But I don't think they're actively being like, ooh, how do we kill off Tier 2? Like, trust me, I don't think they're doing that. I just think that they're very ambitious. And also just, I think over their course with League of Legends, they've probably learned that they need to be more objective if they want the business to grow. Is that good for us? Probably not, but I wouldn't be surprised if they are not making any money in this tournament, just enough to cover it. Oh, for sure. Yeah, and this all goes back to this all goes back to the idea that there just isn't any money, chat, in Tier 2. You guys, let's be honest. Okay. Just right now, and this right now, you guys in my chat are like the core of the core fan base. How many of you watch more than half of the matches in Challengers for your region? More than half of the matches, not just the big matches, more than half of the matches. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's because you don't have time. It doesn't matter if it's because you don't care. Nobody cares about the reason. Just the numbers just don't add up, right? I mean, let's be honest. I don't watch more than half the Challengers matches live unless I'm watch partying them. So my point being that you can say that they need to invest more, but it's like, realistically, the high viewerships in Challengers, certain regions, successful, right? You guys are telling me Indonesia was blowing the numbers out of the water. That's great, right? But most of it is Like, there's a limit. I don't think people in SCA want Riot to invest more. Yeah, no, what you guys, listen, chat, I'm just going to say this, right? And I'm not saying that what you can dislike the current situation and you can continue to make a voice so that somebody somewhere finds a solution. That is fine. But saying that, well, this sucks, just go back to before is may not actually be a solution, is what I'm saying. Okay, right? Like, it's just, it's the harsh reality is that everybody's losing money. I'd also like people to understand that money from, say, 20,000 viewership might be way smaller than what you can get from Riot. Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Chat, you guys, chat, you want the real truth? You want the real truth? You want less of these bad business deals to happen in esports? I would say stop using ad block, watch every single ad. You know, it doesn't matter if you don't like it. Don't cry about it. Watch every single ad. Watch every single desk segment, right? Eat up all the sponsorships. Buy those sponsored products, even if you think they're crap. And then watch every ending segment. You do that. If everybody does that, then we can talk about how we want an ideal world with streaming platforms. But until that happens, I'm not saying, again, I think this is bad. The more I talk about with you guys, the whole like exclusivity is a wall for growth is actually going to hit this pretty hard. It's going to hit it harder than I initially thought back in last year. I mean, we didn't even know about the exclusivity. So I agree that the current situation is bad for SEA. And I do think that there should be a solution. But also the solution, I do not think the solution is simply, well, the TO should just go eat dirt while we get to watch it on Twitch. I don't think that's the solution, right? As someone who worked in a TO that wasn't getting good money from a lot of events, it kind of sucks, all right? I've had to chat. I was literally told to make an event happen with $0. Do you know how much it sucks to have to run an event with literally $0? It's crazy. It's crazy out there. And I worked for a company that wasn't even like some run-of-the-mill. You know? Exclusivity is fine, but YouTube and Twitch isn't going to pay for it. That's what I'm saying. You think YouTube and Twitch are going to pay for Challengers Southeast Asia? Nothing against Challengers Southeast Asia, but YouTube and Twitch don't need Challengers Southeast Asia. Do you guys understand where I'm getting at? Like, TO is a tournament organizer. TO is tournament organizer. TO equals tournament organizer. So, chat, I get it. It'd be great. If you can convince Twitch and YouTube to pay for it, then I agree. Then that would be better. But, like, you think YouTube suddenly needs to buy exclusivity to bolster their platform? Listen, if I was YouTube, I ain't buying that. Right? It's the same reason, like, for instance, the whole Twitch leaving Korea, obviously that has many layers, but at the end of the day, I look at it and I'm like, listen, if I was Twitch, I'd probably make the same call. Korea's a tiny little country. You're probably not making the big bucks off of this country, and with all the complications and the money, you just pull out. You just say, you know what, I'm done. Because while Korea's great for gaming and esports, it's just not worth it for you, right? So, like, it'd be great if they bought it, but again, the difference is that Twitch and YouTube would be buying exclusivity, buying the rights, right? So they would be buying the media rights, whereas someone like SOOP, I mean, quite frankly, actually only SOOP, because, well, unless Naver wants to run tournaments all of a sudden, especially out here on the East, like, they're the only platform that has a platform and runs tournaments. They can basically take a hit and recoup by getting people onto their platform, or that's the goal, right? Now, again, the argument right now is that, well, is that even going to happen? But chat, you'd be surprised, because SOOP literally might actually be better off with, like, just from SOOP's perspective. I'm not saying this is good for the scene, but let's say it goes from 20K to 5K. But if like 10% of that 5K stays on the platform, that might even be better for SOOP. I mean, I don't know, but it could be legitimately in the long term. So like, you know, so does that suck for the scene? Yeah, but that's where Riot's also going to have to keep a good pulse on it and figure out, you know, where do you draw the line? What if the number? I mean, listen, I don't know what the number there is. I don't know what, you know, I don't know. I don't know from SOOP's perspective, like what is a good ROI? What's their good ROI here? Like, I don't know, but I'm going to wager that it's smaller than we think. I'm going to wager that it's smaller than we think. Now, again, this is purely SOOP's perspective. That doesn't make it good for the scene, unless the only way it's good for the scene is if they actually like break records on their ROI and then they're able to reinvest into the scene. But like, that seems like that's already out the window, right? So, I do watch every ad on SOOP, though. I refresh it often because it's lagging, and every time I do, ads always pop up. I do agree that that's a little annoying. I have to do that on the Korean website every now and then, and that does happen. How much does a platform actually make per viewer per 100 watch hours? That part I don't know, and it probably differs a lot per platform. And SOOP is probably lower than other platforms, just because their reach is lower. But the thing is like, like for instance in Korea, like SOOP is trying to build out other ways for them to make money, right? So it's like donos on like for streamers, and they take a cut and things like that, and then they have their points betting system, but then you know, like prediction system, but then you can use that for giveaways, and then they have like sponsored items in there, and so there's a lot, which in all honesty, I sometimes look at the way SOOP is running their business, at least in Korea, and I'm like, wow, they really are trying everything they can as a platform to try to stay alive. And like, I respect it. But again, this is all from SOOP's perspective. Does it suck for current challengers SCA? I would agree. I would agree that it does. What are the oh, that's a good question. What are they calling the donations these days? I don't is it still the balloons? I'm not sure. Check Discord, brother. All right, Mr. 9th place. I'll check Discord for you. But once you guys go into 10th place, I'm done. Oh, right now? Oh, geez. All right, here we go. All right. Let me not show my whole Discord to you guys. Chat, we have a very special guest. Oh, who would have thought back in 2024 that this would happen in 2025? All right.
I don't know what the rules are, so I guess profanity would be at a minimum. So I'll just say, forget you, chat.
That's, yeah.
How about that?
It's all good. You be you, man. It's my channel, it's me, but you be you. It's not a watch party, so we're good.
Respect.
Oh. What's your take? What's going on?
I think it was less a take. I think it's more just I'd like to just ask questions, because the thing is, I don't know enough about SOOP. So I know Talon was sponsored by them at one point, right? And I know that there was difficulties with streaming arrangements, especially the first year before I got here.
Mm-hmm.
So I will say that I think the relationship between Talon and SOOP probably isn't great, but I will admit that like no one here has anything bad to say. I think it was more like, you know, you sign an agreement and you're not able to, I guess, adhere to all the all the agreements beforehand, just for whatever reason, right? Like some of the Thai players didn't want to stream, you know, Obviously, they didn't really speak English. They don't speak, so it's like kind of complicated.
Right.
So I think the relationship is solid between them. But I know like they obviously got super butthurt because I think they didn't even invite us to a tournament. Like the year that I signed on, there was supposed to be a tournament that we got invited to and we didn't. And I'm pretty sure the only reason we got invited to SOOP this year was because of Premi, because like everybody wanted us. Yeah, this off season I had like 5 tournaments. I was so mad about that because I was like, guys, what are we doing? But so I think that's the only reason why they got us back this year. But I know with Twitch being taken away here,
Right.
I know that caused this like power vacuum that was pretty crazy last year.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand, I think, the history with like SOOP and how important they are, because remember, I wasn't here for the first season.
Right.
And then B, I just also don't understand why Riot would think that's like kind of a smart move, given the fact that exclusivity hurts. I would think, the watch parties from NA, the Tarex, the FNS, insert Shanks and some others, was probably a big deal for APAC, no?
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever they did it, yeah.
Right.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So in my head, it's like, to note, the first year that people really paid attention to APAC was last year. And I say this with as much respect as possible. Just I remember what it was like for me being in NA and how nobody watched games. I mean, I remember players on 100 Thieves when I was on like Nitro and like Ethan and stuff. They didn't even know who Vision Striker was till like 9 months after.
Damn.
Everybody was like, this team is legit. Bro, I'm telling you, like nobody watched. So I felt like last year was like APAC's real coming out party. I mean, everyone watched PRX game.
Sure.
But I'm talking like APAC.
Yeah, like all of it.
Yeah. I feel like that like hurt momentum, but I don't know enough. So when I heard you talking about it, I'm like, bro, I got so many fucking questions. And I was like, let me just hit him up. Actually, let me just hit him up. So now we're here.
Okay. So wow. I mean, where to begin, right? So SOOP, obviously, it's a platform, but they also run tournaments, right? So
right.
Like you said, with Twitch being gone, they were kind of going to be the de facto go-to, but then Naver, the main search engine in Korea, made their basically Twitch copy, and they try to compete. But over time, especially within the Valorant scene, but I think just overall in the esports scene, people felt like Naver wasn't really like catering to that fan base. They were just more trying to just be out there with gaming. And so they've been trying to move into what is it? Back to SOOP. So that's that. So SOOP's like still, I would consider SOOP still the number 1 in Korea, but they have some competition in the form of Naver. Now, obviously, I think you would understand that TOs don't make money off of running tournaments.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So especially for things like SVL and stuff, it made all the sense for them to say, hey, we're going to run this tournament, we're going to invest in this, but it's exclusive to ours, right? That's the deal, Riot. Like, take it or leave it. Because that's how they try to make money off of a different part of their business, which is the actual platform. And so,
fair, yeah.
And I think that now, so in Korea, they're relatively healthy. Like they're trying to grow, but they're still the de facto gaming streaming platform. But it seems to be that over the course of the years, they've been trying to expand into the SEA, whether it's partnering with different teams and things like that. And so my assumption is that they decided after partnering with Thailand's challengers in the previous year, they said, okay, if this is all coming together, we'll run it. But hey, we'll whether it's so according to Jake Sin's tweet, it sounds like they're maybe just taking certain costs onto themselves instead of Riot covering it. But basically, they're taking a hit and then saying, right, but give us exclusivity, because in their head, it's like that's the same thing as doing it for SVL, which it kind of is from their perspective, right? It's
yeah. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So that was what I was trying to tell
everyone. So Riot
everyone.
got stuck with the majority of the lion's share for the venue last year, which was very expensive, but by the way, at an amazing place in Coex, which we're all sad that it's not there anymore. And because they were saddled on cost, so now this becomes an economic play. So this is purely really financial then, what you're saying. Well,
yes.
Yeah, I'd say it's also, so it's socioeconomic for sure, but then there's also the thing that the time zones are really bad in North America. So like investing, it's like the China thing all over again, right? Like investing in English streams and such is not really worth it, but APAC thought it was worth it predominantly because still countries in the Pacific region spoke English, so it kind of felt like you kind of had to.
Right.
Okay, so then it's not okay. So it's not as bad because Riot is basically pigeonholed there then because growing the international fan base isn't really worth it at the cost, given the fact that they ate so much cost last year. You have a partner that's willing to invest in quote unquote tier 2 also.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing they want is exclusivity in a country and region where, let's say, Twitch isn't kind of king. Although I think the region part might be a little bit.
Yeah, that's the part that I think
much,
a lot of people have issues with, just because obviously it also depends on the country within SEA, and there's like all sorts of different priorities. So I'm with you on the business side of things, right? Like, okay, this
right. It makes economic sense. Purely for both parties, it's like a perfect match.
Yeah.
If you exclude the thing I said earlier about like you want to grow Valorant, like for Riot's side, there's still a part to growing the game,
yes,
which is complete opposite. But that's a different argument. We're talking pure economics at the moment.
Yeah. So
this is actually a perfect match because they found somebody. Yeah, this is a perfect match. This is basically MTG or sorry, DreamHack ESL Counter. Right? Pretty much the same thing.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. But I think that's the thing is that when it comes to ESL DreamHack, though, the platform wasn't the problem, right? Like it was just the TO itself. And so as it goes with esports, the lines get a little bit blurred because SOOP is also the platform, and also currently their back end and their front end, especially globally on that website and platform, is bad. So it just like gets worse and worse from the pure viewers experience.
A technological issue that is going to be solved because I'm pretty sure if people were in esports earlier, the early like the Red Bull StarCraft events were trash because actually Twitch was trash. So if you would say that this is a socioeconomic play from Riot, but also this is the play for SOOP to try to like grow esports in their own way, then you can also make an argument if you're from SOOP's perspective that the growth that they get out of this, more sponsorship, sub money, etc., all that stuff reinvested into infrastructure could mean better engineers, which means better product, which basically means stealing ideas from Twitch and blah 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 blah. So that kind of is part and parcel like what the situation is.
Yeah, that's the long-term goal, I think.
Right. Okay. So now we got that settled. That this isn't like our word. It's more just economically this actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And they had to make decisions. Okay. So now let's go Riot side for global. Right? So we can at least say that's fair. I think everybody should probably like.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to.
I'm trying to think of arguments really against the economic play, and I can't really come up with arguments. Can you come up with arguments to the contrary, like, oh, this is a stupid move? Because I really don't know how I can frame it.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to talk about it on my stream today too. It's just that I think the facts make sense, right?
Right.
It's not ideal, but like I was telling people in chat earlier. Things would be different if we all agreed to pay pay-per-view for all of our tournaments. Like then things would be different. But
that's a very deep conversation.
yes, but that's a whole different thing. So
because esports is in fact free, which is unlike anything that existed before it sports-wise.
Yeah.
If you think of NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, you could think of Japanese baseball, you could think of
anything. Yeah,
this is very popular here. Premier League soccer, like none of it was free like this. This is like way different.
Yeah. So with that said, that makes sense. So then what I'm trying to get people to do is I agree that the situation, the result sucks, but we should be aware of like what is the actual problem, right? It may not be the agreement itself that's the problem, because maybe like you just said.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are mad right now about the DSG thing, but they don't understand that like they were probably looking for an out anyway.
Right.
And this is like a very convenient time. Like it's complicated, but like, okay. Okay, fine. So I think we agreed that economically this makes sense. Okay, so let's talk about growth of the game perspective, because this is where I'm kind of fascinated by this, because I think it's kind of cap, no? Like you can't say you're trying to grow the game and also restrict it, right?
Right, yeah. that was the conclusion I had reached as well, where I was like, yeah, it does. Because I was actually on board, when they announced that SEA was going to be all one region and, fans got upset about it. I sat there thinking, no, but in the long term, this may be the risk you have to take, right? To concentrate it and then grow it and put the money back in and things like that.
Okay.
But now you have exclusivity on a platform that people don't like. And it's suddenly like, well, that all goes out the window because now nobody's getting anything out of it other than potentially SOOP trying to, build their business.
Because my counter argument is, okay, but they need to grow this in Pacific. Okay, but then what happens if the geniuses in EMEA, which, as you know, with the scheduling stuff, mad troll, what if those guys go, yo, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make it, ESL or kick only, right? And then what happens if in NA they go, yo, Twitch, you're not paying us enough. Fuck you, bro. We're going to go to like kick only. Now, all of a sudden, every region is splitting itself. Right? They're going away from platforms where you can get, I don't want to name streamers like that because I'm not trying to give them any promo, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Like,
we
watch
all know.
party favorites, right? So then you can live in a world where, even in some places geographically, you're locked. Like, how some programs are not allowed in other areas, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
Right? So, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So this is, I think, the slippery slope that I immediately was like, wait, what? Because exclusivity for viewership is very different when you add that element to it. Because at the moment, you don't have that situation, but you can enter a situation where it's like hard to watch your product. It's similar to, I'm not sure if you're familiar with what's happening in the NBA right now.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. So viewership is down
right.
at it's an astronomical level, but the reason it's down is because like some games are like on Peacock, some games are on this service, that service. And basically like most of the games are blacked out because you have to have like a subscription service to watch it. So yeah, viewership numbers are bad for commercials, obviously, outside of like the major channels that have like a few games a week, like your ABC, NBC in America. But it's literally because you fucking can't watch the game anywhere cleanly. You have to watch, you want to watch the Lakers play this week, you got to watch it on this shit. You want to watch them watch next week, you got to watch it on that shit. And it's not that the problem will be that bad in Valorant, but I can imagine if this becomes precedent, then you could watch NAVCT on fucking, X channel. You can watch EMEA on that channel, and then you have nobody watching it because they're just like, bro, I'm not trying to fucking make 17 logins and
it's just with TV shows too, right? You gotta have your Netflix, you gotta have your Hulu, you gotta have your Disney Plus. Like we're in that era where you have to just have like 50 different subscription services to watch anything.
Right. So that becomes a fucking massive problem, I think. And I think in the long term, it does the exact opposite of what they're trying to do in terms of growing the game, because you're restricting access in a way that you hadn't done previously. And you're doing it also, this is like no disrespect to Pacific, but you're also doing it with a region that's socioeconomically can't pay the way that, let's say, North Americans could, right?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, also just like the market itself and the size and the companies. Yeah.
So it's kind of like, if anything, in my opinion, and I don't know if I'm right about this, but I feel like if anyone were to not be or if any region were to not have done this, it should have been APAC because of the fact that they have all these socioeconomic restrictions, and you want this region to grow probably the most because there's so many different countries that are a part of this region, as opposed to North America and EMEA. I mean, I guess an argument can be made that EMEA is very similar in terms of the amount of countries, but you get my point, right? It's like the economic disparity is so vast that like you want to make sure that APAC has the ability to watch it at all times, because you want those low income viewers anyway. You don't want to restrict them because you need them.
Right. Okay, so here, now I'm just spitballing as well, but the devil's advocate, I think, would be that also because of how isolated, so to speak, Pacific is as a region, right, in terms of viewership, etc. Like it's like you said, right? People in Americas like aren't really actively watching Pacific.
Right.
That's why exclusivity maybe seems like a safer bet here, right? Just even aside from what you said within the region. And chat, Frost isn't calling us poor. Okay, that's not.
Oh, is that what this?
saying.
Bro, no, it's just the dot. Like in America, you can hike up the price because these people will fucking pay for it, but here you can't. It's the same in LATAM.
Yeah,
it's
it just means
the
that
stuff that you can get away with charging in America. You cannot do that in LATAM.
Yeah, it just means that Americans will just pay unreasonable money for anything. That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my counterpoint is that I think I wouldn't be surprised if there was a discussion and they said, yeah, but is it really going to be that bad if Pacific is isolated on a platform? Obviously, barring the different nations and having different priorities, etc.
Okay.
So in that sense, maybe, obviously, is that short term? Maybe, like you said, because maybe then EMEA or Americas looks at it and says, ooh, we could do that too. And then it gets all really bad. But
yeah, I think, okay, so, this might be fair, but I think it came early because to my knowledge of SOOP, because I looked around the SOOP platform, SOOP is obviously Korean, but like their website wasn't, I guess, user-friendly for those outside of Korea, correct?
It's bad in Korea, too.
Okay, but so my point is, then maybe the argument we made in economics about, like, hey, they can reinvest and obviously update their infrastructure, maybe that's also incorrect because actually, if they were going to make a move like this, they probably should have done it on a platform that, like, is, let's say, favorable to, like, people that speak like Thai or Vietnamese or like, right? Like to make it more agnostic, I guess. But
yeah, so someone else, I hadn't even considered this, but someone earlier was saying this in chat that there's also the possibility that there wasn't really a good competitor, that nobody wanted to run Challengers SEA at whatever cost. And SOOP was the only one willing as long as they got exclusivity, right?
I mean, you're having the same problem in North America too.
Right, right. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, right? Or the competition was just like way not trustworthy or whatever. So if that's the case, you didn't. Again, we go back to the point that you just didn't have a choice.
Right, fair. You could be positive about SOOP for this, but then I think this is a gross negative because I've been bitching about this shit forever. This is a gross negative for Riot. Because they moved this into franchising without a legitimate plan for Tier 2. And every year, they've had a more backwards program, divested in Tier 2, divested in GC. They say all the right things because they want, uneducated or even educated people to be duped. But, like, if you have the brain power of, like, an adequate human, you could definitely see that they're basically just, like, talking in one direction and moving in another, right?
Right.
Because then this is not a real SOOP issue. This is a fucking Riot and Tier 2 issue.
It's a Tier 2
because
issue.
Basically what you're saying is SOOP is going to be the savior of Tier 2, which then it's like, wait a minute, time out. You're Riot. You want to put your IP, Valorant, in the hands of someone else. But in reality, you this whole time said no to ESL, no to DreamHack, no to every other that has tried to do this over the years with League of Legends, including obviously the CSGO guys that wanted to come here in Valorant early. And now all of a sudden you don't have a Tier 2 system because you decided on running it yourself. And now you're like, wait, time out. This is too expensive or we don't know how to do it. My bad, bro. But now you're missing almost, I would argue, a whole generation of players because Tier 2 hasn't been in flux for like 3 years. And if you go by, like, let's just say, because I'm American, so just humor me on this, North American high school system, every 4 years is a new generation of kids, right? Every 9 through 12. So if you do the math, then it's basically like they just fucked over an entire generation of kids. And now they figured out, wait a minute, you know what we could do? This thing that CS has been doing for a long time. Let's just get third-party organizers to run our shit. God damn it. That's genius. Which then, I'm almost at a loss if that's the logic now, right?
Yeah. I think it's just this has brought back to light the big problem with Tier 2. And it's like, what is the goal with Tier 2, right? Like, do you just accept that you're going to just continue to lose massive money on this thing, but just so you can bolster a good player base for Tier 1, where you're hoping to make money, whether it's through the sport or through the game? Or, like, are you also trying to at least break even on Tier 2? Because then that's a whole different conversation.
Right. I mean, again, if this was an economic play, then, I mean, if we're being completely honest, then franchising was a huge mistake from the beginning, because the moment you invest into franchising and creating a closed system, you're then incurring all of the risk and the cost on yourself from the beginning.
Right.
So then why didn't we have things in place from the beginning, like salary caps in both leagues, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because the real issue they're running into is the complaints from teams, right? Because they have to, well, I mean, they kind of cut it the whole program, but the whole partnership program was, yo, you need to subsidize the cost because it's really expensive. Well, it really only got out of control because they didn't have the proper guidance in the beginning,
Right.
because they were allowing orgs to spend 40, 50K on players and competing for arbitrary like victories. And now all of a sudden you enter the system where now you have people, bro, the first year in franchising was insane.
I mean,
when I tell you the rat race and the people, the salaries were unbelievable. And then some orgs are still having them. Like, yes, a lot of orgs backed off. But now you're looking at this and it's just like, bro, what the fuck is this, bro? And now you have, like, I mean, we talked about it, I think, off air, but, you know, T1 is a super team because of what they're spending based on the average costs here in APAC.
Right.
But that is still like average salary for NA team.
So, but just a side note, right? Just so also we clarify this for chat. Obviously, it's not franchising; it's a partnership. And so now I have a question for you. I want to know your take. So contracts are over in 2027, right? They review everyone, and does that fix anything in your opinion? If you review and just re-sign different teams?
No, because it doesn't fix the big problem, which is you being, I guess, right at this
me,
very moment.
Chobra is the big problem.
No. and it doesn't fix it because your rules are still in place. If you're telling me that when they go for the review, that they're going to add new systems in place to hopefully like help everyone be more fiscally responsible via the league, right? Salary cap being chief among them, then sure, maybe it will. But knowing Riot the way that I think I do, that's not going to be in place. So then no. I mean, sure, protecting us from bad orgs, I guess, but that's just cap, because the Bleed situation was just Bleed got out of control. But there are other orgs in here. I mean, we don't got to get into this now. It sounds like spike talk. Let me just say, like, shit is crazy. Now, you guys know way more than me about APAC, but in NA, bro, if I told you guys some of the
let's calm down. Let's calm down.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so taking them out and putting better teams in, like let's say DSG, for instance, what does that fix? You just have a more sustainable team in your league. Great. But sustainable teams aren't the problem. You have the teams investing in them now. They're just complaining about, I think, what they get out of it. And until you fix that on the other side, then you're going to be in a world where it's just like, you know, a constant back and forth. That's, I think, my problem is that not every team plays by the same rules, which that's another deep one.
Yeah, that's
later. Not every team plays by the same rules, but also Riot doesn't really set parameters and rules. They don't. It's only when you cross an arbitrary line that it becomes an issue.
Right. It's more about just making sure you don't go too far rather than having the complete foundations, I guess.
Yeah. So no, I don't think it fixes shit. And I think that's the frustrating part for me is I've watched so many tier 2 players that have a good chance to like do something and accomplish something, and they're just basically not playing Deadlock or, you know, Marvel Rivals or so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So to the counterpoint of the overall regional socioeconomic thing, someone's saying that if you look at Mobile Legends Bang Bang, because of how popular it is, people are actually investing into the teams themselves in the game. And so like even outside orgs are trying to invest into the APAC scene just because of how big it is. So like
fair,
the counterpoint is,
Yeah, but this is the thing about that argument is, okay, mobile is more economically viable because you need a phone. Just think of the hardware costs, right? So you're looking at per player, right? If you were to be in NAVCT, let's say on average each PC is about $4,000, right? Right?
Sure.
Then you need office space because you need a PC. Then you need peripherals. Then you need, internet and blah, 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 blah. If you get into mobile, you just need a phone. And the reason why mobile is so big in Asia really is because the internet infrastructure has been, I would say, behind Europe especially. And because of that, that's why, especially the Swedes, like if you think of like Counter-Strike, the reason why the Scandinavian countries were so dominant early on in all of the very competitive PC games is simply because they had fiber lines and they had submarine lines, like transit landing lines, before everyone else.
Right.
So they have a massive advantage. So the only reason I don't think it's fair to compare mobile to us in this case is simply because out the gate, the costs are so much less. So for instance, if you don't have to subsidize all those PCs and all the infrastructure I just told you, you can pay affordable wages to players, and it isn't crippling you because you don't have to add the weight of the other. And then for Riot, for instance, for tournaments, it's obviously a lot easier because when we do a 16-team tournament, which is why I think some of these majors, because I'm pissed that it's 2, 3, 4, right? 2 for Thailand, each region, 3. I think that's dumb. But one argument you can make for them is if you think about the cost incurred by 16, again, every single player, you have to basically add up the costs per player equal to that of the ones we just mentioned about just the hardware costs, right? Forget everything else.
Yeah.
And you have to multiply that by, every team. And it's just, when you start doing the difference between, wait a minute, why don't I just do fucking mobile tournaments? Yeah, actually, like for real.
Like what's really funny though? Yeah. Is that one of the big esports that Riot fumbled was Wild Rift, which was their mobile game.
Oh,
I don't listen. I think it's a bit more complicated than that. But...
You think? I don't think it's complicated at all. It's blindfold dartboard. That's all it is. Well, blindfold dartboard.
I think the Wild Rift failure is probably it's pretty apparent, I would say, but I don't think it's.
I don't know. Arena Valor did okay.
This is you and me though. You fire shots and I kind of hold my.
No, don't, bro. Let me take the shots. They fucking hate me anyway. I'm just saying, if we really think about it, explain to me how Arena of Valor was more successful. Arena of Valor is a fucking copy of Honor of Kings. League of Legends actually had IP that could withstand Honor of Kings, and it failed. Like, come on, bro. Look at IP. You want to talk about IP? What about Marvel Rivals? What makes Marvel Rivals so much better than Overwatch? Okay, you could argue maybe a more competent dev team. Okay, but you know what the one thing is that they have over them? IP. So explain to me how fucking Marvel Rivals is considered successful, and Wild Rift had everything going for it, similar to Marvel Rivals, but one was a colossal failure. Come on, bro. Come on, this is just facts, bro. This is just facts.
Facts provided by Frost.
No. It is just facts. IP.
What you said is facts.
It's a massive advantage. Yes, this is a massive advantage. They fumbled the bag. Unlucky, bro. Just
definitely
fumbled the bag.
Yeah, definitely fumbled. Agree with that.
Bag. But don't bring that shit over here. Never mind.
Oh man,
too late.
Yeah, but I think
too late.
I think you brought up a good point that mobile is just a whole different market. So that's. Yeah,
right, and I think it's
different.
It's so easy to want to be like, and I get the example. It's not like it's brain dead to do it. It's just that it is sometimes more complicated because dollar and cents, when you start to actually parse it, when you start thinking of the differences, it's like, yeah, fuck that. Why do I venture into PC at all? Because this shit is crazy, and it's true. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's way more expensive than people think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just, I don't know if there is at this point, especially with already there being obviously, yeah, you could break the contract and find a new partner or whatever, but with it already being in motion, I don't know how you.
No, I don't think you can, because I think all it does is make the situation worse, and I'm tired of Riot making situations worse. I think it's more just, I think at this point
you just have to weather the storm.
Yeah, but they need to figure out whether this is the right move to take because it opens up the door for EU and it opens up the door for NA to do the same thing. And then you have to start going down the like. I think at this point you have to sit with SOOP, especially because the tournaments are what, in a week, 2 weeks. Like you cannot sit here and just turn around and just, bro. Could you imagine what the situation would be like if SOOP and Riot are no longer partnered? You think Riot is capable of within 7 days putting this together?
Right, running it.
All the kickoff? Nah, bro.
Yeah, definitely not.
That is not the swag. So on a personal level, I don't think anything should change. I just came to talk to you because I just had no idea like why SOOP was so important and how they managed this, given the fact that, in my opinion, ESL, DreamHack, and others were not afforded ever the ability to do so here. And I just didn't understand what made SOOP so important. But I got some of the answers.
Yeah.
It just is unfortunate that I think we're going to live in a world where you can only use their platform. And I think that is going to restrict a lot of people from being able to do things. I don't know how that's going to affect the watch parties. Like, I know for SOOP, people really couldn't watch party, right? They had to.
Yeah,
they were using their voices only, but nothing else.
Yeah. You can't show the game. So, like, some people were trying to bend rules just enough, like, by just only showing mini-map and but you can't show the actual gameplay. You can upload, like, reviews and highlights afterwards onto YouTube, but, you know, that's already, the live is done, so... So you can only live watch party on SOOP, which I was shocked that Sean Garris was like, you know what, it's my time to go to SOOP, and he watched party that entire tournament on SOOP. But
yeah, I know that's actually where we watched most of the games anyway.
Yeah.
So it's actually kind of funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
But yeah, I was kind of surprised because even at SOOP, apparently the agreement wasn't done because we found out there that like, hey, there's a chance that like it's not going to be SOOP. So we were just trying to figure out whether we stay at Coex or not. Because I think even Talon was thinking of moving offices closer up north.
Oh, yeah.
By the time we found that out, we were like, oh, wait, there's just no point. We should stay here. So, so like, it's crazy, right? They hadn't had their contract signed technically even in December when we played at SOOP.
We're just letting it all out there now.
I mean, maybe, but like, no one had me on NDA. No one told me not to tell anybody. That's just the fact that like one of the managers were like, yeah, we're not sure yet if it's actually going to be us, but you know, there's a good chance. And we were like, wait, you don't even know? It's like a month out, no? And they were like, you just saw their face. It was like,
Oh, yeah. It wasn't smooth. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it tells you it went 11th hour. Which means that Riot probably thought about a lot of these issues.
A lot of things, yeah.
Felt like they had no fucking choice. Which makes me wonder, who else were they competing against? Because I know you said there was like nobody, but there had to have been somebody.
Well,
no?
in SEA?
Like just in general, to take over the league?
Well, in SEA, I don't know. I actually don't know the partners very well. Someone was just suggesting that might be the case, that there wasn't really any competition. But, I mean, it's always, I guess, man, who are the... Like, there's the ones that ran Ascension. I think that was the same group both years. One esports or one up esports or whatever, and then I think
I won't even pretend to be knowledgeable about this stuff.
Yeah, but I think it's also mostly like if you have TOs at all, they're kind of sub-regional, right? So like you have like Thai organizers and you have like Indonesia or Singapore organizers, things like that. So. I think, that's probably another difference in terms of the competition. But yeah, I wouldn't be as knowledgeable in the business partners there either, so that one I can't speak on too much.
Well, that fucking sucks. You know what else sucks?
Oh, you want to talk about the map rotations?
brother. They do this every time, bro.
Oh, perfect timing.
What the fuck, bro? After kickoff, well, what was it? A year ago, 2 years ago? All of a sudden, it's like, yo, Lotus.